The South African judiciary is taking center stage in the political drama unfolding in the country. Our country's democracy, once hailed as a model for the African continent, has come under scrutiny following attacks on the judiciary. Tonight, we look at the unfolding drama of the attacks on the independence of the judiciary. Good evening, I'm Aldrin Simpier, and this is Unfiltered. Judges are being accused of political agendas, and some have even been accused of accepting bribes. State Security Minister Ayanda Dlodlo has even ordered a forensic investigation into allegations that some judges were bribed by intelligence agencies' slush fund. Tonight, we ask you, is our democracy under threat with the ongoing attacks on the judiciary? Remember that you can join the conversation on our social media pages using the hashtag Unfiltered. With us tonight is the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services, Ronald Lamola. Justice Johan Kriegler also join us for this conversation, a retired Justice of the Constitutional Court of South Africa, and Carl Niehaus, spokesperson of the MKMVA, will join us a bit later on. Before we continue, let's take a look at this clip of Chief Justice Mogoeng addressing this very issue back in 2018.
I've had to engage one very senior politician who heads a political party, is a president of a political party, who made sweeping statements about the judiciary. The police had done something that was viewed as wrong. Now, instead of saying the police have failed in this regard, the judiciary is failing the people. There are a number of generalizations like those. And two, our failure to own up to the responsibility of ensuring that all of us play our role in protecting the judiciary. I say it in this sense, in the sense that was articulated by the Deputy Chief Justice. A sense is being created that we are so insensitive, for instance, to issues relating to gender violence. People are arrested, and because we don't care about women, we release people and so on, unjustifiably. And that could damage public confidence.
Well, that is Chief Justice Mogoeng back in 2018. Let's now ask Minister Ronald Lamola to join us for this conversation, Minister of Justice and Correctional Services. A bit later on, we'll be in conversation with the Justice Johan Kriegler as well as Carl Niehaus. Minister, good evening and welcome to the show. Let's start off here, Minister. Do you agree with the sentiment that the judiciary is under attack? Hi, Minister, can you hear me? Okay, we seem to have a problem there with the line to the Minister. In the meantime, let's try Justice Kriegler. Justice Kriegler, can you hear me? Good evening and welcome to the show. Okay, let's just quickly go to an ad break. When we come back, we'll hope to have those lines up and running. And welcome back to Unfiltered with me, Aldrin Simpiers. We have a conversation this evening looking at the attacks on the judiciary. The Minister of Correctional Services and Justice, Ronald Lamola, is joining us for the conversation. Justice Kriegler, as well as Carl Niehaus, the spokesperson of the MKMVA. Minister, let's start off with you. Do you agree with the sentiment that the judiciary is under attack? Hi, good evening, Minister.
Evening.
Sure, you can continue, Minister.
Hello. Yes, evening, Adrian. There are indeed signs on the nation of personal curious attacks against the judiciary that we have heard, including unfounded allegations that have not yet been really substantiated in forums that are aimed to deal with allegations against the judiciary. And from our perspective, it is important to respect that institution of the judiciary. If there is any complaint or any issue, let it follow due process and it be substantiated by evidence and facts so that it is able to be adjudicated and be dealt with, so that we do not have a generalization of challenges that are in the judiciary, because if you have a generalization, it will then erode the entire system and the functioning of the justice system, which no country in the world can afford, including ours, which is a constitutional democracy, which is also relying on the judiciary being the final arbiter on some of the disputes that will from time to time arise in society. So from our perspective, our constitution has given the judiciary, in particular the Court, as the final arbiter on a number of disputes. And that then makes the principle of the rule of law as a sacrosanct part of our constitutional democracy.
Do you have any examples, Minister, that you can cite where you can say that this is where the judiciary came under attack?
There have been many such statements, Adrian, that came up, including conspiracies, which are well known in the country, that have been said. And from time to time, we cautioned against such. And that's why I am saying such should only be done through proper channels and processes, so that they can be followed through.
Yeah, but do you have an example of moments where you'd say that this is where the judiciary came under attack?
Yeah, I'm deliberately not wanting to mention those moments because I believe they are well known to the people of this country. There have been a lot of them, but I think people know them. And the point I'm raising is that such processes or such issues should be followed through the well-developed mechanisms of reporting such instances.
Isn't it important, Minister, for you to mention those instances so that we can deal with those right here on air, and so that our listeners as well can take a listen into those moments and say that this is where the judiciary came under attack and this is how the Minister of Justice perceives this particular attack?
I have raised the issue, Adrian, and I think it's well known to the viewers and the listeners, and even to the people of South Africa. There have been many such instances. I've lost count. So I think it's issues that are well known to. There's not even a need for me to mention, but they are well known. There have been lots of such issues.
Would you say that the former president has attacked the judiciary?
As I've said, Adrian, I don't want to be specific on any issue, but there have been many instances where there has been an attack, and we on all those occasions have stated our side of the story, that there should not be such attacks. There are well-established procedures and systems that can be followed if there is a concern with regards to any judge or any judicial processes in this country. We do not want to go into some kind of an inquiry, because we as the government do not have platforms to run an inquiry. But we know that the Judicial Service Commissions, but there are also other established mechanisms through which such specific details and matters can be ventilated.
Sure, Minister. The reason that I asked this question and asking for you to cite examples is that in my next question, I'll be speaking to Justice Krigler, because there is also a thin line between attacking the judiciary and also being critical of the judiciary. Hence, I ask again, Minister, is there any example that you can cite where you'd say that this is where the judiciary came under attack?
The reason I don't want to cite an example, Adrian, is because it is going to take me to run an inquiry of an example, and then we're going to be running whether indeed it was an attack or not, and all that. As an executive, we do not have the platform to run an inquiry. There are platforms that are created to run an inquiry, like the Judicial Service Commission and the other mechanisms that are there. It's not that we are afraid to talk about it, or we do recognize that there are those platforms. And that's why we're saying whoever might have an issue with the judiciary, there is that platform that they need to follow. And as I've said even previously, there could be criticism of judgments. There's nothing wrong to criticize judicial decisions or even judgments. Judges themselves criticize each other. Academics in the field of law do criticize judges, but such criticism must be informed by the facts and the law.
But you have the Minister of State Security, Ayanda Dlodlo, who said that there is a forensic investigation into allegations of judges being bribed. This is not a matter that has been sent to the JSC, but she's dealing with it, meaning that it is an executive action that has been taken.
Yeah, obviously, as you will remember, that comes from the input or the evidence that will have been led at the Commission of Inquiry. And it is within her right to do that forensic investigation to check from her department whether indeed such an account was run, if it was run by who and how. Then that outcome of the forensic investigation becomes a subject that can be taken forward. You have to be specific when you deal with this kind of issues. You can't just deal with them on a general kind of a term because, and as you become specific, you must be prepared to provide and go to the processes of the Judicial Service Commission.
Was this the first time, Minister? Sure. Sorry, Minister, just quickly, was this the first time that you heard of judges being bribed?
I have heard it on many occasions. As I've said, that there's been conspirators that have been raising that issue, but all those have not submitted any evidence to that effect. And even at the commission, I've heard it, that there has been such an allegations, but up to now, we are awaiting the comprehensive investigation into the matter so that it can be taken through the processes of the mechanisms, the complaint mechanisms of the Judicial Service Commission.
Okay. Justice Krichle, let me ask you, thank you so much for joining us as well this evening. When does it become criticism and when does it become an attack on the judiciary? Hi, Justice Krichle, can you hear me? Okay, we seem to have a problem there with the line with Justice Krichle. Let's try Carl Niehaus. Carl, good evening and welcome to you as well. When do you think it does become criticism? When does it become an attack?
Well, good evening, Albrin. I think that we perhaps should look at this issue from a different angle. And the angle that we should look at it is not to accept a position that judges or the law or in fact, any court, including the Constitutional Court, is sacrosanct. Criticism is required. And the opinion that I and many other citizens in South Africa can express about the judiciary is our democratic right. We can express a criticism. I heard recently that Mr. Justice Krichle expressed a criticism of Mr. Justice Schlophe. I disagree with that criticism, but both of us have our democratic right to express our views and also to say how we feel about how the judicial system functions. Because the very important thing that we have to acknowledge is that judges are human beings like everyone else. Judges can err like everyone else. And judges live in our democratic society where debate is part of the lifeblood of the society. So when we express criticism, it is not an attack, but it is an attempt to deal with serious concerns. I hear that Minister Lamola says that he doesn't want to give some examples. I don't mind if he given examples. I'm quite happy to express my concern about the decision of the Constitutional Court recently with regards to President Zuma. I'm quite happy to express my concern also about the conduct of the Deputy Chief Justice, Mr. Zondo, as chair of the Commission of Inquiry into State Capture. And it's my democratic right to do so. I repeat again, judges can and will make mistakes. I'm sure that Judge Krichle will acknowledge that he himself had probably made mistakes as a judge. Probably one of the biggest mistakes that he as a judge made was to accept the position of judge before 1994 under the apartheid system. So yes, we all can err.
Okay.
And we all must debate and discuss about these issues.
Okay, let's
And
just quickly
I'm
then
not
go to...
prepared
Yeah, let's...
deal with this in a way that it is sacrosanct to avoid criticism and to turn criticism into an attack.
Let's just quickly go to, Carl, let's just quickly go to an ad break, and then we'll come up, when we come back, and then you'll wrap up your point, and then we'll get Justice Krikler to respond to you as well.
Thank you.
And welcome back to Unfiltered, and we say welcome to our SABC News viewers as well. We are here watching Unfiltered with me, Eldrin St-Pierre, as we focus on the judiciary and the attack on the judiciary. Our guest this evening, the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services, Ronald Lamola, Justice Johan Krikler, a retired Justice of the Constitutional Court of South Africa, and Carl Niehaus, spokesperson of the MKMVA. Carl, just quickly wrap up the point that you wanted to make earlier on, and then we'll get Justice Krikler to respond to you.
You see, Eldrin, it is very important that in our country, we try to avoid a situation where the judiciary will play a role that overrule the democratic processes that we as a society have agreed. There's a very difficult and delicate balance that needs to be maintained. And one of the criticisms that we as Umkhonto weSizwe Military Veterans Association have expressed over the last couple of weeks is the fear that we see on a continuous process, that the judiciary takes decisions that overrule the democratic positions and will of the people. Now, when that happens, we have to be seriously concerned. And we have to ask ourselves, is this constitution that we have, in fact, serving the intentions that we had when we negotiated it? Because if it leads to what I've called before, a dictatorship of the judiciary, we need to look at this constitution again. And I repeat what I said about judges and the judiciary. They are not sacrosanct, nor is the constitution sacrosanct. And if there are these problems, we have to consider whether it is not necessary to make required changes to the constitution to avoid such a situation where the democratic processes in South Africa consistently get pushed aside.
What sort of changes, quickly, Carl?
By a judiciary that takes
what sort of changes to the constitution, quickly?
Well, I think that is a question that we will have to consider on the basis of looking at the various clauses of the constitution in order to correct that balance and to make sure that the democracy that we have in South Africa get not overruled by a dictatorship of the proletariat, well, not the proletariat, but of course of the judiciary.
Okay, Justice Krikler, just a quick response to what Carl had to say there.
Can you speak up and I'll hear you?
Okay, I was asking you to just give us a quick response to what Carl Niehaus said there earlier on.
Gladly. First of all, I think we must be perfectly clear. We must distinguish between smears just hurled at the judiciary without detail, without specific allegations, without people, without cases. Just generally a political attack because a decision or a series of decisions was not liked. Any judge knows that in any case there's a winner and a loser doesn't like losing. Therefore, one is immersed in a culture that you know people will not be happy with what you have said. That's part of a judge's job. But undermining the integrity of the process by saying that the judge, not the judge is wrong, but the judge is a crook, by saying that the judge is biased, by saying that the judge is playing a political game. You're not criticizing the judge. You are busy destroying the system whereby disputes are determined. We know that in South Africa, the judiciary has been increasingly involved in political disputes. It has been not the judiciary's fault. The judiciary doesn't go and interfere and say, I want to be involved in this political debate. It is people who go to court and resort to the courts in order to settle constitutional disputes. That's how judges get involved in politically contentious issues. And for then people like Mr. Niehaus, who don't like the outcome, to say that the judges who do their best, and of course they're fallible, everybody makes mistakes, but to say that they're dishonest, that they're biased, that they're dictators, is to try to destroy the system of the rule of law.
So then, sorry, Justice Krichler, if, for instance, freedom under law speaks of bias when it comes to the Western Cape Judge President, John Hlophe, is that not an attack on the judiciary?
Certainly not. On the contrary, if Judge Hlophe had been removed from the bench 8 years, 10 years ago when he should have been, there would have been no disgraceful judgment like last week's. It is because he is a blot on the face of the judiciary that we highlight the fact that he is not representative of the judiciary. He is, to the best of my knowledge, the first and only judge who has delivered a disgraceful judgment of the nature that he delivered the week before last. That's not the judiciary. And we criticize, we point out, this is what you did wrong, this is what you did wrong, the other is what you did wrong. We do not cast general reflections on a body of women and men who are doing the best and say they are corrupt. Let people like Mr. Niehaus come forward and say, Judge X did this. This is where he took so much money for doing this. Let them lay those charges, not necessarily with the Judicial Service Commission. Let them lay the charges with the Hawks. Let those cases be investigated and prosecuted. Of course, judges are human. Of course, judges are fallible. Of course, judges are not above criticism. And for anybody to suggest that they should be is to caricature the current debate. The current problem is not that people say Judge X went wrong in deciding this, whereas he should have decided that, or he accepted this evidence instead of that evidence. It is a broad, general, sweeping statement by politicians who are unhappy with results, who are dissatisfied with the law as interpreted by the constitutional interpreters of the law, who then, instead of sticking to logic and criticism, resort to political smear. That's what it's about.
Let's then quickly go to an ad break there, Justice Krichler. Unfortunately, we have to go to a quick ad break. He'll say goodbye to our SABC 3 viewers, but the conversation continues on the SABC News channel. And welcome back to Unfiltered with me, Aldrin Sampier. We continue our conversation with the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services, Ronald Tamula. Justice Johan Krichler is also joining us for this conversation, and Carl Niehaus, the spokesperson of the MKMVA. Minister, just quickly then, within your political party, when you have conversations around judges and have conversations around the judiciary, is there any discernment at all around how far leaders within the party can go in their critique of judges, and also the allegations that they make of judges, including those allegations of bribes?
Adrian, firstly, the ANC took a deliberate decision to go for constitutional supremacy instead of parliamentary supremacy that was the system under the apartheid government, because that system had proven to be used as a tyranny against the majority of the South African population. It was through that system where various legislations that dispossessed our people of the land and various arrests without detentions were executed, and the courts could not intervene. So the ANC deliberately took a decision for constitutional supremacy, where the Concord becomes the final arbiter on the matters in the country, and that the courts will be responsible to adjudicate decisions. It's a deliberate political decision. It is not an issue where you can amend a clause in the constitution and then it turns the situation around. It has been many years of discussions and deliberations, and even when you go back to the historical materials of the ANC, from its founding documents, it was very clear about its vision, including the African claims, the Freedom Charter, and also the Ready to Govern document. It then led to the architecture of the current constitution through the principles for a constitutional society. So it's not like it's something that it was just woken up and it just happened. It's a product of deliberate political decision, the constitution that we have as we speak now. And it's an outcome of an ANC that wanted a constitutional democracy. And in this year in particular, we celebrate 25 years of this constitution. Within the African National Congress, the policies do speak about the transformation of the judiciary in a manner that is going to be reflective of the demographic of the country and the ethos and the values that has been espoused in the founding documents, including the preamble of that constitution. So it will, from time to time, there could be decisions that we may not like or may not agree with, which obviously we have the right to criticize. But what we cannot do is to cast aspersions on the personality of the judges and to criticize or to bring what you have just said about the bribes and the corruption without providing substantive evidence. So that should be done through the established process of reporting to the police and the Judicial Service Commission. So the ANC does understand that we are living in a constitutional democracy of a constitutional supremacy, not parliamentary sovereignty.
But what do you say then when a former president and the leader of the party says something like this? And this is referring here to former President Jacob Zuma, this is. In his letter, we sit with some judges who have assisted the incumbent president to hide from society what on the face of it seems to be bribes obtained in order to win an internal ANC election. We sit with some judges who sealed those records simply because such records may reveal that some of them, while presiding in our courts, have had their hands filled with the proverbial 30 pieces of silver. Minister, you can't just ignore that, right?
Yeah, obviously, the person who is alleging must prove. He must take that process to report it to the relevant authorities, the Hawks, or even take it through the Judicial Service Commission, because bribery is a misconduct and it's a crime in our country. So there are processes that are established to deal with that. So he must follow that process to ensure that whoever has been bribed or whoever paid the bribe is brought to book.
Yeah, is that where the
Aldrin, can I come in?
Okay, Carl.
Well, I think the minister is somewhat disingenuous in the way he presents this, because he knows very well that the proof on the basis of that statement that was made by President Zuma is contained in bank statements that had been sealed. And this has been a concern that we have expressed time after time. You see, you can try and hide behind legal processes. And you can try and say, well, follow these processes, as the minister just said, come to the NPA, etc., etc. But when you have a situation where essential evidence is being prevented from being revealed to the public, that the sunshine cannot shine on those bank statements, then we don't know. What we can say is that there are indications that the judiciary have acted in a way that they favor certain political positions and factions against others. That the judiciary has been behaving. Judge, can I just conclude what I'm saying before you get too excited? Please, can I conclude? Well, I'll give you substantiation. The way in which President Zuma had been treated by the judiciary, the manner in which the National Prosecuting Authority had been involved in the political manipulation, together with politicians, of the case, the arms case of President Zuma. Now, can I, Eldrin, I've been given the chance
Okay, Carl,
to speak,
Justice,
and
let's
I
just
have
quickly
given
give Carl an opportunity
Judge
to
Kriegler
quickly...
the chance
Yeah.
to speak.
Sure.
Please, I don't want him to get overexcited. It's not necessary. He doesn't need to hyperventilate. I'm busy stating my particular position as I've got the right to do so. And I want to say also at the same time that our Minister of Justice and of Correctional Services is also quite disingenuous when he talks about the apartheid system as a democratic system that had a majority
Adrian, but-
No,
that
no,
overruled
but
the
that's
people.
Also
Carl,
can't
Carl.
give, Carl to speak
Yeah.
without us coming in.
Yeah.
No, they
Okay,
will
okay,
answer
okay.
me.
Justice.
But the minister
Okay.
knows that it was
No.
Okay,
Adrian,
only
Minister,
the
let's
white
quickly allow Carl to
minority
quickly finish up his
you can't-
point.
You can't just
Only the white
allow,
minority.
Okay,
Carl
Carl.
to just
Would vote.
speak.
Okay,
in
Minister,
this
let's allow Carl to
apartheid
quickly wrap up his
democracy.
point. You can
While in-
respond.
I'll conclude my point.
Yeah.
While in the new democracy that we have today, the majority gets represented in parliament. So his example is really disingenuous.
Okay.
Now, lastly, let me address the issue of Mr. Justice Kriegler making a sweeping attack on Judge John Slope. He says we mustn't make sweeping attacks, but in the next moment, he falls exactly into that kind of trap that he says we shouldn't do. We have given examples of what has happened in the Commission of Inquiry into State Capture, the biasness of the Deputy Chief Justice. We have raised our criticisms of the decision of the Constitutional Court with regards to President Zuma and how his rights had been undermined. So it is not a case that we've not given examples.
Okay.
But please, let us deal with proper facts and let the minister not tell me that an apartheid parliament was a majority and a majority democracy. And therefore,
I've
No,
never-
but it didn't
I've
say
never-
it's
never
a
said that.
democracy.
Minister, you said that.
Carl, no, it didn't
I've
say it was
never
a
said that.
democracy. Carl, he didn't say that it was a democracy. Minister, can you just quickly respond to Carl so that we can give
the
Justice
minister said
Kriegler also
that
an opportunity to respond?
democracy of the apartheid system
Carl,
which is a totally wrong and incorrect.
Carl, please give the
Stay.
minister an opportunity to respond, and then we'll get Justice
I'm
Kriegler
very
to
happy
respond.
for the minister to respond. Thank you.
Minister?
Let me correct the distortions, Adrian. I never said that the apartheid government was a democracy. I've said that it ran a process of parliamentary sovereignty, where the parliament was the final supreme law of the country. But with the current dispensation, the ANC deliberately decided on constitutional supremacy, where the Concord becomes the final arbiter on any matter that relates to the Constitution. And we are now in a constitutional democracy. This was a deliberate decision of various policy documents of the ANC. And we are in that environment now as a country. And that is the architecture of our country, which we all have to respect in terms of the rule of law being sacrosanct and that of the Constitution being sacrosanct. It's not about amending one clause in the Constitution.
Okay.
It's a form that we've decided on.
Okay.
And with regards to the sealing of the documents that is raising, if someone goes and report a case to the Hawks, they've got a right to subpoena any document. They can access any document, even the ones that are before any particular platform, which they can access if there's any criminality. And the person who is alleging will then be able to prove his case by accessing that information. So he has that at his disposal. And I suggest, I think that is how they need to deal with it, instead of just putting spurious allegations that there's been any person who has been bribed without putting the facts on the table and the evidence, which they know they really do not have. We have been told about this threat that one day they are going to speak. It has been almost 15 years now. There is no such a thing. So let them put it on the table. And what is currently happening with regards to the current architecture of the judiciary, it's important for our country to have respect for the rule of law, because if we do not have that respect of the rule of law, we are now going to govern by negotiation with thugs, crooks, and criminals if they have to be arrested and be brought to book. And we can't go to and degenerate to the level of other countries across the globe. Our constitutional architecture has to be respected, and the rule of law must always reign supreme.
All right. Okay, Minister, let's just quickly go to an ad break. Justice, when we come back, we'll give you an opportunity to respond to Carl as well as some of the issues that has been raised by the Minister. You're still watching Unfiltered with me, Aldrin Simpier. You're on the SABC News channel. Okay, and as we wrap up the conversation, let's quickly get some closing remarks from Justice Krichle, and then we'll give closing remarks to Minister of Justice as well. Justice, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Aldrin. Aldrin, excuse me for interrupting Mr. Niehaus, and I want to apologize.
Thank you.
I am debating with politicians. I'm sorry. I'm a lawyer, and I like facts, and I like people who make factual or legal allegations, not sweeping statements, not incapable of being ingenious instead of ingenuous, which means dishonest. I do not debate with people making personal attacks on their integrity. I prefer to deal with the merits of a debate. I'm perfectly happy even when Mr. Niehaus says the judgment of Judge Slope in the case of Bongo before him debated with him. I wish to say to him to consider the legal advice it listens to my proposition that former Minister Bongo was wrongly, unlawfully dismissed from the case when there was a strong prosecution.
Oh, Justice Krichle, we seem to be struggling there with your sound. For some weird reason, it keeps on muffling your voice. Let me just quickly give Minister of Correctional Services an opportunity to give closing remarks while we try to sort out that line to Justice Krichle. Minister, your closing remarks? Quickly, Minister, in a minute.
Yeah, thank you, Adrian. The burden of proof, those who allege must prove, and that we are in a constitutional democracy. This is not parliamentary sovereignty. And this is a deliberate policy position of the ANC since its foundation. Its various documents, African claims, the Freedom Charter, and Ready to Govern, and the principles of a constitutional democracy which preceded the interim constitution and also the drafting of the constitution. So it's not something that we have just woke up and thumbs up. It has been thought through by our founding fathers.
Okay, Minister, just quickly then, do you still want to see former President Jacob Zuma appear before the State Capture Commission of Inquiry, considering the meeting that he had with the top 6 of the ANC earlier on today?
Yes, it is in the interest of our country that he participate and help the commission to find the truth.
Okay, then thank you so much for that. Apologies, Justice Krichle. There seems to be a problem with the audio there to you. Carl Niehaus, appreciate your time as well. And thank you so much. Unfortunately, Carl, we've run out of time. We have to say goodbye to our viewers. Thank you so much for choosing Unfiltered with me, Aldrin Simpier, this evening. From me and the rest of the team, goodbye.